going live or not, and I think we are live. So, not yet. This is always the moment. What happened?
Yeah, save your enthusiasm just in case.
All right, we're live somewhere, so let me find us. That's always the best part here.
As long as we're live to somebody out there, there's somebody getting joy from our experience.
All right, let me find us. So, Chad, if you're seeing this, hit us with the link in the Slack chat so we can so I can find this more quickly, because it's hard to look for YouTube on yourself. I found, or I don't know how to do it.
Oh yeah, so we are on the MLB DFS strategy page right now, and there are 100 people waiting in the other room.
Okay.
Or 170 something. 150.
I clicked the right one. Okay, well, let's go over to the strategy room one.
All right, I'm putting the link in the YouTube chat now.
Thank you.
All right, we're live, guys. Sorry about that. This unfortunately does happen probably more often than it should, given that got a lot of shows going on YouTube. But fortunately, they do what they do. So hey, welcome to the Live Before Lock show. I'm Chris Spags. Saturday, joined by my good pal, your old pal, Emac. How's it going, Emac?
It's good. It's good. Other than this is a double. What do we say? MacGuffin today. 2 missing puzzle pieces, with us going out on the wrong show for tomorrow, and for Eddie and going out on NHL, which had already happened. So I don't know what's happening today. But the show this morning worked, so we're 1 for 3. And if you're 1 for 3 in MLB, you're doing something right.
That's true. I would take my guys hitting 1 for 3 today. And you know what? And this show's going to be a home run. So the 1 for 3 will be a strong one. But yeah, I pasted the link in there. Hopefully people follow along. Got a very nice 69 people watching now, but we need the other 150 or whatever to come here. So, hey, we'll go through it. We got 5 games today. We got some time. So we'll get there. You also have some time before you're building your lineup. So use that promo code Live Before Lock. Get in there for half off your first month at Osmo.com. All the ownership projections themselves, you just plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, and rankings from Osmo. They're all at your fingertips for half off that first month. So use that promo code Live Before Lock. Get in there. All right, Emac, it's 4:20 here. So let's blaze it up with some baseball talk. The hot stove of baseball chatter is what we'll be bringing on this day. First matchup here, Emac. We have the Dodgers going into a game with Milwaukee. 4.9 implied runs for the Dodgers. 4.6 implied runs for Milwaukee. Hyun-Jin Ryu coming off the DL, a short stint there. Apparently his groin's doing better, but I still have a hard time getting to him knowing what we know of his pitch count and just in general coming off an injury, not a spot I want to be. Chase Anderson on the other side going against a Dodgers team who is strong across the board versus right-hand pitching so far this year. I have some Dodgers. I don't have any Brewers, and I don't have any Ryu. What do you have so far, Emac?
I am going to concur with you there on being a little tepid on Hyun-Jin Ryu, just because it's a tough matchup there. Now, we're going to need to remember that we only have 10 games because it's a shorter 5-game slate today. But this is one of those where you've hit it perfectly to say, based upon the matchup, the potential pitch count. He's coming off a short stint on the injured list, etc. Good pitcher's ballpark. I don't really want to get there. There's some West Coast pitchers in the 2 late games that I think we're both going to land on with a little more enthusiasm than we will for Ryu. And I think that's just fine for this one. If I were taking any hitters against him, I think you're right. I don't think there really are any hitters going against him now, because we're going to do the mass multi, or I'm going to do the mass multi-entry. I'll probably have maybe 10% Brewers, maybe, and I suspect those will end up being some of my 3-man stacks, not my 4-man stacks. Usually, if there's a tough pitcher, it's baseball. Anything can happen, but the Dodgers have a good bullpen as well, so I won't find as many hitters I really like to go against him. So that's where I think I can find 3 that we liked, and let's open that up here.
Dodgers bullpen, I will argue that point a little bit. To start the year, at least, they're not doing that well. I think if we're looking at a larger sample size going back to last year, they're a little bit better. But this year, giving up just under 9 hits per 9, not striking guys out a lot. So, not an illogical reason to go to the Brewers today. But just wanted to point that out real fast.
Yep. So it would be the top 4, top 5, no 4. So Kane, I'm all right with. You got to figure he can help work the count. He walks a fair amount. The top 4 guys all walk 10 to 12%. So that's helpful against Ryu, even though he has a minuscule walk rate. But it just means they'll potentially find a pitch that they can hit. So they do have that ability going for them. Christian Yelich, of course, MVP candidate once again. He's fantastic in lefty-lefty matchups. Ryan Braun is as well. Aguilar has not been as good this year as he has been in the past, probably just a cold spell, but he would be the top 4. And I don't mind Hernan Perez as a one-off. He's 2,600 on FanDuel. He is 3,900 on DK, but he does get you that second base shortstop eligibility. And then on Yahoo, he's the minimum. He is 7. So he comes into play just from a price perspective in this one, and he's okay against lefties.
Okay. Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, I have Lorenzo Cain the most, actually. I do have him as a one-off a couple times. Yelich, I didn't quite get there, though. There is an argument, as Emac mentioned. He is pretty good versus lefties. We talked about it with Josh the other day, where he's not the exact same player he is versus righties, but he's about as good as you can get in that same-handed matchup. And even a mere mortal version of Christian Yelich is still much better than pretty much every other hitter you'll have on every other team for the most part today. So I'm with that. I did land on some Chase Anderson today, and I'll give you my reason why. It doesn't feel like a great play, and if anything, I think there is some concern. But in a max 20 entry, having a couple of Chase Anderson lineups, I don't mind, especially when I have some of the other guys who we'll talk about a little bit later. Chase Anderson, though, swinging strike rate of 13.5% to start the year. Hard contact, pretty much in line with everything. Striking out guys, 11.7 Ks per 9 so far in 2019. It's, again, not a great spot going against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the best hitting team across the board today on the slate, going against right-hand pitching. So it's not a spot I would advocate for a lot of. But I think Chase Anderson in a spot where a lot of people are probably going to Eric Lauer, I think it's okay. And Trevor Cahill, I think it's okay to go to a little bit of Chase Anderson.
All right, here is my counter to that. Now I agree. We're again 10 pitchers, so we're gonna have to be, not as picky as we want to be here. We're gonna have to be a little more relaxed. But I said so far this season, the Brewers bullpen is nowhere near as fearsome as it was last year, and they had to do 4 mop-up innings yesterday as well as on Thursday. Chase Anderson is a pitcher that has reverse splits, meaning he is worse against fellow right-handers, but he is not particularly good against lefties either. Since the beginning of last season, he's faced 340 righties, allowing a 340 WOBA, 240 ISO, 20% strikeout rate, 8% walk rate. Those numbers against lefties, 302 WOBA as compared to 340, 168 ISO, which is pretty low compared to 240, and then strikeout rate's about the same. So I'm assuming he's going to go around 5 innings. And Chris, if he can go 5 innings and just give up 2 runs, 3 runs even, I don't think he's going to kill us at his price. So that's where I think it's okay playing him. But I do like the Dodgers as a pivot away from Coors Field in this one. And the bullpen has just been no bueno, I think is the technical term. Let me call up my bullpen link here just to see, because their guys have so we had Alex Claudio, Junior Guerra, Josh Hader, and Donnie Hart all went yesterday. The day before, they had Jeffries, Jacob Barnes, and Matt Albers all went. And then they had Aaron Wilkinson there eating up a bunch of innings on Wednesday. So no one will... They don't have to put anybody out there that's pitched yesterday if they don't want to, but their better pitchers did pitch yesterday. So it's kind of an interesting one here to take a look at. So I'm okay playing both sides of it. The Dodgers would probably be, for me, behind the Coors Field hitters, but Chase Anderson would definitely be probably my number 4 or 5 overall pitcher. Again, I'm just hoping he escapes without a meltdown, and that I think I'll take as a victory today.
Yeah, if he gets you a handful of strikeouts and doesn't get blown up too bad, I think you're in an okay spot. So that's my logic with him. But I agree. I do have more Dodgers stacks and I have more Chase Anderson. So I support everything you're saying as well. And Chris Taylor also down in the bottom of the order. Not a bad play for pretty cheap. I think I've tried to find some guys who have one-off power, and I think that he does have enough to be interesting today with dual position eligibility on DraftKings. I think that makes him a little bit interesting. David Freese too, actually, just throw him in there. He's also pretty cheap, and he has pop and been hitting well to start the year. Let's go to the next one, Emac. We got this Astros game. Highest team total on the slate for the Astros going against Adrian Sampson, who is, I would say, across the board, you could define him as not a good pitcher. Texas on the other side getting 3.8 runs going against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole going to have about 30% ownership on DraftKings, comparable ownership, one of the top owned options industry-wide today. What are you doing with this one? I didn't get a ton of Garrett Cole, to be honest. I have a ton of Astros again, stacks of both the top part and the bottom part of the order. And I have one lonely lineup of Adrian Sampson out of 20, and even that might be too much. Emac, what do you think?
I believe I'm going to go with zero Sampson. I think I'm just going to take him out of the mix entirely. The Astros are. I think I must have liked their projected lineup a little better this morning. I think they're all in a phenomenal spot. Where I say I think I like their projected lineup a little better this morning, I want to do some wraparound stacks. I want to be different. I think between Coors Field, the Phillies, these guys, and the Dodgers, we're going to see most of the offenses gravitate towards those guys. So if you're looking to get a little bit of differentiation among that, that's where you want to play, the 8-9-1-2 or the 9-1-2-3, etc. And Fantasy Cruncher actually now has it so you can set your by position or by batting order. Do you want the guys batting 5th, 6th, 7th, 9th, etc.? Just remember when you check or uncheck that, you're doing that globally. So if you were going to do this for a Houston stack, you would just want to localize it in to 5 of your 20 lineups or whatever, with the 7-8-9-1 or something along those lines. But I think Bregman is the best play. Springer is a close second, kind of tying with Michael Brantley. And then Jose Altuve, who knew? Number 3 in home runs in the AL right now.
Wow.
He has 8.
Yeah, I mean, on a numbers basis, he certainly has a lot of pop. I didn't realize he was that high up in the overall league numbers. But yeah, that everywhere in this lineup, pretty much there's going to be danger for Sampson. And I agree, you could stack in a variety of ways, skip a guy if you want. I mean, there's going to be a ton of ownership on the top 5, obviously, as Emac mentioned. The highest owned guy going to be Alex Bregman pretty much everywhere. So I have no problem stacking this up in a variety of ways. Any Texas at all for you going against Cole? And also, how much Cole do you expect you're going to have?
Cole's going to be my top guy. We just got another lineup projections were just updated for the players. So, and we do have all the lineups in. So I'm going to load that now and do my crunches and see what happens. But I'm putting my thumb on the scale here to get some additional Garrett Cole. And as an example, today on the all-day slate, I had about 50% Scherzer and about 50% Cole, just because I wanted to load up heavy on those guys. Now Scherzer's going right now because he's in that 6:00 game, but those are guys that I think can help carry the day. And there's enough decent other spots where we could, in those lineups, my strategy, I ran some 3-3 stacks. And the reason I did that is I was hoping to land on potentially some good one-offs with upside in other games, and that allowed me to get the 2 cheap hitters I needed to really help out this sort of stuff, rather than trying to force a 4-4 in and only having 1 free spot for a cheap guy. So
interesting. Okay, yeah, I think there's a lot of guys you want to pay for today. I think catcher is one situation as well. I want to talk more about Max Stassi for a second, because I think he's going to be a guy. He's not. I haven't updated our ownership, or actually, just double check. But I don't think he's going to be. He doesn't have a ton of ownership right now in the most recent update I have on the sheet. Actually, he doesn't have any ownership on the one that I have most recently. But he's going to pick up a ton of ownership here, just being in that spot. He's been so bad to start the year, and even going back to last year, he's not great versus righties. He's got better splits versus lefties by a pretty significant margin. I think Max Stassi's not that great of a play today, even though, it's a nice total here. I just don't see him being a part of the run production, and I think he's going to be over-owned. I guess I'm just wondering, where are you going at catcher on this slate? Because it's either pay for Real Muto to me, or you're just dealing with a lot of trash.
Yeah, I don't hate Stassi, especially if he's part of the stacks. I prefer him in a 5-man, or if I'm trying to do one of those wraparounds. And just at the minimum price, I'll take the punt. He doesn't have a ton going in his favor in this one, other than maybe if he gets on base, he'll have some guys that can knock him in. Let's see, in his last, he has 1 hit. Yeah, I'm channeling Bob Uecker. 1 hit, 1 goddamn hit. That's all he had.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the numbers, they just look bad. And I always liked him last year going against lefties in particular.
He's scored fantasy points in 2 of his 6 games. Chris. And it was 2.6 in each. He got a walk in one and a single in one. There you are.
It's not ideal. Yeah. So the ownership update that I didn't have on my sheet yet, we have at 13% on DK.
Okay.
Let me see. What is he on? Gonna have any on the Yahoo? Stassi, where are you at, Stassi?
You can't.
Oh, oh my God, he's gonna be 40% on Yahoo.
Well, he's 7, so that's the extreme punt there. Let's see who else we have here.
I'd honestly rather on DraftKings, at least, I'd rather go to Mejia and going against Castillo, who's at least in the 2-hole and does present a better lefty righty matchup versus, going against Castillo, who's a really great pitcher. And I will have a lot of him. We'll talk more about him in a second. I just like the Stassi, going to be a lot of Stassi ownership, I think, are out there. And I just don't love it. I
think there'll be a fair amount of Drew Butera. But the guy that I think could, and I'm just getting ready to pull the percentages in, Manny Pena is 7 on Yahoo and batting 7th. And he's actually okay against lefties.
Yeah. So I don't know. It jumped out to me about Stassi, and I'm glad I saw our ownership as well. I have, I'm with the field on the number right now, but I think going much above that, it's a good spot price wise for him, but he's just not doing anything. And I worry. I mean, if anybody's going to give it up, it is Samson. So I guess he has that going for him. EMAC, let's go to the Coors game. We got the Phillies here with 5.5 implied runs. Colorado projected for 5 runs. Aaron Nolan not playing well to start the year, not missing bats under his usual rate. Going back to last year, 12% swinging strike rate. So far this year, just an 8.4%, also a 1.66 whip. Pretty bad start to the year overall. And the other side, Antonio Sensatella, just not a good pitcher either. Not missing bats, hasn't missed bats for as long as you can count him as a pitcher. Not a lot of ownership on him. Going to be some ownership on Aaron Nola, and I actually will be with the field on Nola, perhaps a little bit underneath it, just because he does seem like he's due for a bounce back if he's not hurt or screwed up in some way physically. What are you doing here, Emac? I think there's a lot of directions you can go.
So for me, and it'll be fun to see when I run my percentages here. I'm not really prioritizing the Coors Field game. Okay. I'll have some for sure. They will probably be my third and fourth most popular stack, so it's not like I'm not going to be there. If I was hand building lineups or just going to do 5, I would probably have them on 1 or 2 a piece, and that's really it, which is kind of an interesting thought process there. So Senzatel I don't think he's not awful, like Samson awful, so I'm okay with him landing in as an SP2 here and there. I'm fine with that. We'll have to see what the numbers are that comes up. Adam had a good point on the show this morning, and I'm sure he wrote it up in the deep dive, which I have not read yet, but he talked about, let's see, no, he didn't put him on his short list for NOLA, but he had said, here's his, he put him as an honorable mention. He said this particular iteration of the Rockies lineup is not the quote best lineup they could put out there against him, was his assessment. So when you also say that Nola has been priced to take on a great Rockies lineup, and no Arenado here, definitely waters it down some. McMahon, he's 24, 25. He's still on going up in his hitter trajectory, and it hasn't been fantastic yet. He does have some pop, and he and David Dahl coming back are really going to make the Rockies tougher against lefties. But Nola is a guy who's a fringe, when he's got his stuff going, he's a fringe Cy Young type pitcher. And that's one of the ones here where, just based on where leverage can come from, we can see Nola. I forget, what was the final score of the last night Rockies game? Was it like 3-2 or something like that? Or was the last time I looked? I started watching basketball, so let me go back and see that just out of curiosity. But just because we're in Coors Field doesn't mean there's going to be an awesome, massive run amount of runs scored every day. There will be, and when the weather gets even better, there will be a lot. But on some days, it will not happen. It was 4-3 yesterday, and they went into the 12th. That's why I didn't know, because I stopped watching. So there was only 7 runs yesterday. There were 25 hits, but just 7 runs. So weird stuff can happen. And if you played, the pitchers yesterday, let's see how they did. Velasquez was great. 8 strikeouts, 5 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs allowed on a home run. And then Marquez was solid as well. 5 Ks, 10 hits allowed, but and 2 walks, but just two earned runs. So those guys did a pretty good job. I think Nola is as good, or if not a little better than Marquez, in my opinion. So I think just by that um, train of thought, I'm okay with Nola here. And again, a lot of this is about the fact that there's only 5 games. If there were 8 games, well, perhaps you don't have to do that. You don't have to fly into the teeth of the storm. But now that we're down to 5, you've got to start 2 pitchers on most of these sites. We already said no to Sampson. We're not excited about Senzatella. We're going to be halfway excited about some of the guys in the late slate, but Nola's more talented than those guys per se. So if everybody's on Garrett Cole, what are we doing, etc. So there's a whole combination of thought and game theory that goes into these sorts of decisions. So hand building, yeah, it's going to be hard to click on it. Making a nice little portfolio of players. Well, if it wouldn't shock me if on your 20 teams, if I was doing 20 teams, it wouldn't shock me if I ended up with 7 or 8 Nolas.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit less than that, but well, actually, I could just tell you right now. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Nola, it's not a place to get back on track. Some of the guys in the YouTube chat are saying right now, and I get that part of it, but it's also, as you mentioned, just not a great hitting lineup. Yeah, I have 5 out of 20 right now, so that's about where I want to be. Yeah, I think it's fair. He has some strikeout upside here. Again, this Rockies team also hitting very poorly versus right-hand pitching to start the year. I think we expect that to turn around and getting guys like Dahl back in the lineup. To a lesser extent, Ryan McMahon, who's really not that great of a hitter. But I think if you have Tapia down the order, that certainly helps a bit. Like there's some worry here for sure, but I think it's not a bad lineup to be going against if you're Nola or if you are owning Nola today. And he could just be due to be a little bit better if he's not hurt. I mean, his numbers are way underneath what they have been for the last year. And your hope is that he has good enough stuff to get out of the spot. And I think he may very well. And honestly, like guys like Zach Eflin could have had a decent day. And he's, I think, a worse pitcher than Nola as long as Nola is healthy. So yeah, I don't hate it. No Senzatella for you, I presume.
Just a little bit. I'm entering a few more contests and then I'm going to run a crunch here because I can only do, excuse me, I can only do so many things at once here.
No, that's fair. Yeah, so I like this Phillies side quite a bit. I think the top 5, I mean, I'm not going on a much of a limb given that they have a 5.5 implied run total here. But the top 5 to me interesting. I also think I wish that Phil Gosselin were a little bit cheaper. It seems like he should be given that he's not a regular day player, but getting a guy at 3,600 in cores with dual position eligibility, I think he's worth taking a shot at, even though his 25 at bats in the last year and plus have not been the best things. I think that it's an okay spot to go to him. Maikel Franco at the bottom of the order, pretty still well priced given that he's in the 8 hole, but still a decent hitting spot for him. And he's been hitting well to start the year. So I think you have some ways to go here. And as I mentioned before, JT Realmuto, I think he's a really strong catcher play. And I think he's the only guy at catcher today who I feel like has like legitimate upside where you could see him have 30 points and nobody else here. I think I could even imagine a world where that occurs.
Okay. Yeah. Let me think that through. I think that is a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean his hitting versus versus righty pitching is it's pretty good. Strong. 16% ownership as well projected for Realmuto. It's tough to get to him, so I think there's just in general a lot of upside going to Realmuto. The assumption as well, you're going to have some of these guys on base. I mean, he's got strong players in front of him with Hoskins and Harper, who I think are both in really good spots as well. So I think it's a good spot for Realmuto in a way which I don't feel that way about any other catcher. Let's go to the next game, Mac, and we can talk about your crunches and how much you have of these guys once you get that stuff lined up. Let's hit this one before the halfway point in our home run picks. Cincinnati here going into a matchup with the Padres. A really nice run total supporting both pitchers here with Eric Lauer and Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo going to be the most owned pitcher on DK and pretty much, I think, maybe the most owned industry-wide. Going to be over 40% on DK. And it's a good run total here. It's a good matchup for both guys. Eric Lauer's strikeout stuff not necessarily there, but it's a good spot versus the Reds, who are terrible versus left-hand pitching. And we just saw yesterday a guy like Matt Strahm went 8 innings versus them and gave up barely anything and had a lovely day. Guy I was on very much last night that paid off. I'm going back to the well with Eric Lauer and Castillo, and I actually have some with both these guys in a lineup. What are you doing here, Mac?
I think Castillo is right there behind Cole with regards to pitching, matchup, skill set, etc. So I'm looking at this. So I've got 41% for Castillo in our ownership, which is I think that's the most current one. That's about where it was earlier today as well. Cahill's at 35, Cole's at 34, Nola at 31, Lauer at 31. So everything's kind of concentrated in these top 5 guys. So looking at that, we're seeing Kikuchi. Interesting. Let me see if there's any news on him, but because I don't know why he's not being on. In any event, back to this one, I am going to go. I've got 50% Castillo right now, and I'm willing to bump that up. You know what? We're going to make that 60 right now. The reason I'm willing to do that is if you look at the matchup for him against the Padres, it's the same thing that we did or we saw last night when I was all fired up to take Anthony Desclafani. There is one lefty that's functional on the Padres, and that is Eric Hosmer, and he is batting 5th tonight. They have the switch hitting Francisco Mejia in there. He's not going to scare me at all. He doesn't have a ton of. He strikes out 32% of the time. Let's put it that way. So when he connects, yeah, he can hit for some gap power, but he doesn't connect very often. So that's it. Otherwise, Castillo has been absolutely lights out against same-handed hitters. Over his last 406 right-handed hitters faced, he has a 250 WOBA. That's not batting average. That's his WOBA. He has a 120 isolated power. That's incredibly low. He's striking out 25% of them, walking 6.5, and he has a 54% ground ball rate. Those are all absolutely phenomenal numbers. And better yet, he's not in Great American Ballpark tonight. He's in Petco Park. So that has me very, very excited here to put him all the way up to 60%, which puts me at half again what the field is or what we're projecting on DraftKings.
Yeah, I am with you on it. I think Castillo, that's honestly why I'm comfortable not going to Cole today. Cole's a little bit tough to afford with a lot of the stacks I wanted to get to. Castillo, I can make it work, and I'm willing to see that only between these guys, one of these guys are only going to get a win, obviously, out of Eric Lauer and Luis Castillo, and even then, neither may. But I think the run totals here, and I've mentioned it on many streams at this point, but it has been a focus of mine, and I'll say it because I think it will help a lot of people. Focusing on the Vegas totals and really trusting that a little more, especially for pitchers, has been a thing that's worked well for me. It worked yesterday with Matt Strahm, who nobody was on, even though he had a very low run total and a good matchup versus the Reds. Same thing here for Lauer. The strikeout stuff not really there, but they'll give you free strikeouts too. So I have no problem going to Lauer, and Castillo, obviously a much better play, who I also have no objections to. One item to note too, Francisco Mejia going to be very highly owned, just under 30% on DraftKings. Very cheap, but it is worth noting too. He's not an ownership pivot to Max Stassi. He's more of a talent and perhaps slightly cheaper pivot. Any stacks going against these guys, EMAC? It is a spot where there could be leverage here with both guys going to be over 30% owned on DK at least. And, some hitters here, Eugenio Suarez can certainly rake versus a lefty. Matt Kemp as well historically can, even though he's hitting terribly to start the year. I think there are some spots where you could stack against these guys if you wanted to do so. But what are you doing, EMAC?
Yes, I will have about 8 or so percent against Castillo, and then I really like the Reds going against Lauer. Now, Lauer he's been adequate. I've played him a fair amount of times this season. Someone that I look to. He's solid against right-handers. He's going to face an entire right-handed lineup with the exception of Scott Schebler. So when I say I like these guys, I'm focusing on Eugenio Suarez, Puig, Kemp, and then if I get Iglesias or Barnhart as a catcher, if I'm doing 4-man stacks, I'm fine with that. Or if it's Peraza leading off. Peraza doesn't do a very good job of getting on base. He doesn't walk. He's not disciplined. He puts the ball in play, but he can be stupid at time to time. So while not necessarily a strikeout guy, he's not necessarily going to be on base for us, which is where we need him so he can steal and or get knocked in for a run. So while I do like those guys, it's very concentrated in that group. And I'm okay with 15% of all of my batters being amongst that quartet.
Yeah, I think to me, Suarez is the most appealing as a one-off. And, Peraza just being that cheap and hitting leadoff, it's worth, I think, some takes. He also doesn't strike out that much versus lefties, so that is a positive for him. Like you mentioned, EMAC, he does put the ball in play. That's at least something. I think there's an argument to go to some of these guys if you want to save some salary and open up some some resources there. Jose Iglesias too, also very cheap, and he does have some pop, and also doesn't strike out a lot. So I think there are some ways to go there if you want to go against Lauer. But I am heavy on Lauer, and I think even if he gets banged up, he may just do well enough to get through the day, and that's the hope here. Emac, we're at the halfway point of the show. Let's do our home run picks. We are currently tied. We both have 3 on the year. Josh just behind now at 2. Jake's still an 0 for to start. So let's get it back on track. I have picked Jock Peterson in 2 straight days, and I don't want to do that again today, but I feel like law of averages, I might have to. But you give me your pick first.
Let's not pick Mike Trout today.
No. Be a gentleman.
But I will go with Jay Bruce against Trevor Cahill.
Ooh, okay. This is the guy we're going to talk about next, but interesting. All right, Jay Bruce. Should I just go for 0 for 3 with Jock? I feel like Chase Anderson's not that bad, though. I got to go against Samson, and I will go against Samson with...
Do somebody besides Bregman.
Oh, it's going to be Bregman.
So you're taking the best hitter against the worst pitcher.
Oh, you've gotten on the board this year with Christian Yelich. I have no pity for you, my friend.
Yes, fair enough.
Alex Bregman, welcome to the squad. Get on the board today, please, for me. All right, there we go. Picks in. Jay Bruce for Emac, Alex Bregman for me. So those are your dong picks. Yeah, I wouldn't take him to the bank at this point, but I would take him to the fun bank, the Monopoly money bank, where you can just enjoy along with us.
All right, I'm toning some things down here. I've got 30% Cincinnati right now, so I'm backing that off to 20%. So what I do is when I run my and these are 4-4 stacks, I set everybody to 10, and then I see what comes out, and what it'll do is it'll force a bunch of teams to the top. Then you start saying, okay, here's the teams I really want. So right now I've got maxed out Philly, Houston, and Cincy. Colorado is just behind them, then the Dodgers, and then everybody else is after that. So what I'm going to do is take some of that away from Cincinnati and probably give it to Houston, and I might take, ideally I'd like to be at about 25 to 30% on Philly, 20 to 25% on Colorado, 35% on Houston, and then the Dodgers I want to get up into the 25 to 27 range. So that's kind of where my core players are going to be coming from.
Just reading the YouTube chat real fast. People talking about Jose Iglesias. Jose Iglesias hits league average amounts of home runs versus righties, at least over the last year. He's got a 2.8% home run rate going against left-handed pitching, and that would be 0.1% under league average. So I don't know why you're getting snarky in the chat, but actually look up numbers if you want to do that. Let's go to the last game. Seattle at the Angels. Seattle implied for just 4.2 runs going against Trevor Cahill is going to have some ownership on him. On the other side, nobody really projected to own Yusei Kikuchi going against an Angels team. Is projected for 4.8 runs, but it's been hideously bad versus left-hand pitching so far to start the year. I'm not here a ton. I didn't really love Cahill, and I did kind of fall in love with the Lauer and mostly the Lauer group, which I'm sure will go well. But Cahill's not a terrible play here.
Here's what I want to call out, and I wondered if, oh no, this is old news. Shoot. So anyway, I'm going to try to find some better news. The one thing that they've said about Kikuchi, what day is it today? Oh, it's the 7th. So this is why Kikuchi's not being owned. And this is something they've called out before. They said that they were going to, some of his starts, they were only going to let him go 2 or 3 innings. And they've said here, this is from the Mariners manager, which now makes sense why he's not being owned in these, because he's priced at 8,400. So he's priced like he's going to go the full way. He's not. He's going to go somewhere between 2 and 3 innings. And what they've said is they'll want to keep him on the normal start schedule, but rather than just skipping starts this early in the year, they want to limit workload. So what they want to do is get him used to the every 5 days in the majors, et cetera, going through all of that routine, but they don't want to burn him out. So this is going to be one of their shorter starts. So there we go.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I'm not on him anyway, but
yep.
There certainly would have been a logic if he were getting his full run, I guess, or full pitch load. But if that's the case, then probably not worth going there. And he's projected for under 1% ownership. So nobody is. What are you doing with the Cahill situation? People asking about the Seattle stack. I have a little bit of Seattle stack and a very, very little bit of Cahill, but not a ton of either. And not much for me on the Angel side, other than a couple guys here just for value's sake. Emac, what do you have?
I'm going to match the field on Cahill at 35%, but I'm going to make sure I have probably 10 or 15% Mariners. And kind of the reason I want to do that is to take care of just the massive leverage play here, and it's something that I I think we really we really want to give some consideration to these situations and making some distinct teams. The other thing you can do with Fantasy Cruncher is you can set up who your teams, or you can view who your stacks are in combination with. So I wouldn't want to take, the Mariners and then Cincinnati in a stack, because now I'm going against two of the popular pitchers. Wait a second. There's a reason they're the popular pitchers. These are probably better than our other options. But I'd love to have one of those guys and then bring in a Houston, or bring in Colorado or Philly or the Dodgers, etc. So those are pairings I'm looking to make sure that I don't have in my lineups. But that's because then you need two things to go right. You need two pitchers to implode. And if it does, hey, you're going to be way up the leaderboard, but you're needing two things to go right. Plus, then your guys still have to be the ones. You have to choose the ones that are doing the damage. So it just gets a little trickier that way.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, it seems like a fair rationale there. That was sort of all the thoughts I have about this one. I mean, Cahill, to me, I guess we should talk more about him because he's going to be pretty well owned. I really don't have a problem with him, and the Seattle lineup so far is striking out enough. They're above league average in strikeouts, 24.5% so far in the year versus right-hand pitching. So there is certainly a logic to Cahill, who can give you, his 8.05 Ks per nine going back to last year, 7.4 so far this year. He's right in line with where you'd expect him to be. I just think there's some danger here with the lefty hitters. You got Vogelbach there in particular, who can drive it deep. And Cahill has been a little homer prone so far to start the year, certainly above his recent average, 2.4% home run rate going back to last year, 5.6% so far this year. But I do think a guy like Vogelbach, I mean, there's also just power across the board. You got Encarnacion, pretty good isolated power, Mitch Haniger as well. Ryan Healy, also a guy who has shown some power just this week. There feels like there's risk for Cahill, which I don't need to get to. And I'd rather go to Lauer, who's going to be projected for 0.7 less runs against him. I don't know. Yeah, I think those are just my thoughts.
Yes, I would agree with that completely there, Chris. I've got two different things going on here in Fantasy Cruncher. Oh, there we go. It was telling me one spot was telling me I had 65% of cold, the other was telling me I had 33%.
Oh, okay.
I need to understand why there was a difference. There was apparently a glitch in the matrix.
Well, as long as you got it sorted, you got plenty of time. We still got 28 more. No, 28. Oh, Jesus. 28 more minutes.
Yeah, it's a 7:05 start tonight.
Oh God, I've been getting these wrong every day. It always feels like it's a 10 day instead of
Saturdays. Can be, well, let me double check that's our slate, because there were some headers today. 7:10. You're right. It's Baltimore and Minnesota that's going off at 7:05. So we have a lot of time left. One of the things you'll notice on some of these smaller slates is they'll have the Fox Sports games starting at 7:15. I think today most of them were at 4:00. But if they are picking ones from the 7:15 hour, that's a lot of times when the slate will start if there's not that many teams. So all of a sudden it'll catch you off guard a little bit. But today it's 7:10.
Yep. So there we go. So we got a bunch of time left. So if you have questions, drop them into the YouTube chat or the premium Slack. We are checking both. And if you're not on the premium membership squad here at Awesemo.com, now's a good time to do it. Use that promo code live before lock. We have tons of content going on for the main slate, for the night slate, for whatever's going on. We have that all for you. So if the main slate doesn't go that well for you, just get in for the night slate action. We will have ownership projections and rankings for that, as well as regular projections as well. Let's go use that promo code live before lock. Get half off your first month on any package, including ones with Fantasy Cruncher. So you could be crunching lineups like our old pal Emac is doing right now.
Do you want a drum roll? Do we get a tote board check here? I've got my stack. So these are my 4-4s. So I'm going to do 100 4-4s.
I was giving you a drum roll. There we go.
There we go. And I'm going to do 50 or so 5-3s. So and I'm not really calling out any particular groups. I'll probably save a few lineups to do some Houston wraparound stacks. What time is that game starting? Houston is starting at 8:05, so I'll have time to go play around with that after the show is over. But currently I have 34% Houston, 29% Philly, 25% Colorado, 22% Dodgers. I boosted the Angels a little bit, and I got them at 20%. And the main reason is because Kikuchi's probably only going to go, as we mentioned, I don't expect him to go more than 3 innings. 50 pitches would be my guess. The Dodgers, or the current incarnation of the Angels outside of Mike Trout, are just horrible against lefties, but the Mariners, there's a decent chance they're going to bring some righties in from the bullpen, so that'll kind of even some stuff out there. And the guys I'm getting mostly for from the Angels are going to be Mike Trout, of course, David Fletcher because he's cheap and leading off, Albert Pujols because he's batting cleanup, and then I'm getting a bunch of Borges. The reason I'm getting him is because I've got 65% Cole, 55% Cahill, and so I have to have some cheapies coming in somewhere, and he looks like he's going to be one of them. Now, the nice thing about him, if I remember correctly, I think he is a lefty. No, he is actually a righty. But if he gets on base, he does have a chance to steal. He stole a base 2 games ago, and that is the only one he has on the season. But he doesn't necessarily get on base very often, but when he does, he can run, and that's why I'm okay with him as a 9-hole hitter at 2,600. That's a reasonable trade-off in my opinion.
I mean, same thing with him and Zach Cowart or Cozart both. You just got to ride with it and hope for the best. I mean, Cozart's going to be 16% owned compared to 4% for Borjas. So, neither play going to be the most appealing, but you can hold your nose and make them and hope for the best. And Borjas not doing much of note over the last year versus a lefty pitcher, but as Emac mentioned, they'll bring some guys in, and at 2,600 on DK, it's hard to argue that it's not worth a flyer or two on him. So I'm with that.
Yeah, and again, the trade-off is getting these hefty bats and really good pitchers. So I'm willing to do that.
Drop Tech Rune, you just answered the question from about your top stacks on DK, but I'll just mention mine real fast. Mm-hmm. My top 2 right now are really bold takes. A lot of Phillies and a lot of Astros. That is where I just made that work as best I can. I'm willing to go on that limb today, Emac. I think the Phillies and Astros are both strong plays.
Yeah. I think that's completely fine. This is going to be a fun one. I forget how much I enjoy baseball. Just excuse me, because weird things happen, and it becomes enjoyable. Because if you get the 7-hole hitter that hits 2 home runs on the day, all of a sudden it'll vault you up the leaderboards if it's one of the later games, and so you're never quite out of it at any given time, and I like that for baseball.
Yeah, and then there are guys that fit that criteria. Like, just to go back to the Houston game, Jake Marisnick in the outfield, not terribly well priced, but he does have a 4.3% home run rate. He does have a 195 isolated power versus right-hand pitching, and we talked about Adrian Sampson, not a good pitcher, not really missing bats terribly well, giving up a ton of hits every time he gets on the bump. So I think it's a decent spot for guys like that who may be the completely a difference maker for this Astros team is going to have a ton of ownership up top. I'll tell you what, that top 3 going to be very highly owned of Springer, Altuve, and Bregman, but differentiate where you can. All right, give your questions in, pop in the YouTube chat, or pop them into the premium Slack. We're going to work through them now. Apparently I'm 4th place in the NBA GPP. That'll go down, Dave. That'll go down. I wish. Fortunately, so you know what? I'm going to nitpick real fast. Fast Eddie Fear talked me off of Embiid, talked to everybody off of Embiid, like not going to have a good day. Tell you what, Joel Embiid had almost 80 fantasy points. So that was not one of my favorite Fast Eddie takes of the day. It's my fault for not trusting my process. But unfortunately, you needed a little more Joel Embiid than most people had.
Yeah, there was sound reasoning behind it. So
I know.
He didn't push the buttons for us. I played zero Embiid. I zeroed him out. So
once he's in a lineup, I feel like you have to have a taste.
Yeah, that was my take on it. I was like, yeah, nope, I'm just not going to play him. I'm expecting him to play about 20 minutes. That was not the case today. It was, what he did was definitely in the range of outcomes. But
okay. This is So the lineup I'm in 4th place right now in the and one is has Malik Beasley. And Ben Simmons is also pretty terrible, so he's going to kill most of my day. But Malik Beasley and Jacob Pirtle working hard for cheap salaries for me, but that will certainly not last throughout the day. So
I do have a lot of Malik Beasley today.
I have a lot of Malik Beasley. Jimmy Butler got injected. Jimmy Butler getting ejected did not add to Embiid even remotely. That was not. He was already well ahead of pace before then.
All right, on my five-man stacks, I'm going to go 20% Houston, 12% Philly. I've got 9% Dodgers. That feels a little high, but it's only 6 lineups. So I'm okay on that one. Just because it's not a long lineup, but I'm still getting. And now it's working in with Fletcher, Cozart, and Borges. So that's allowing me to get Cole Cahill, Cole Castillo, Cole Lauer. So
Yeah.
let's go Angels.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard. Andrelton Simmons, I think, is at a nice spot where he helps you afford some things. And we talked about Fletcher. Fletcher, not a good guy, but he doesn't strike out a lot. I feel like it's on this slate. I feel like you just got to look for your little victories. And David Fletcher under a 10% strikeout rate versus lefty is going to also have some moments versus righties. It's ugly, but you got to do what you can here. Looking through the question. Here we go. Peraza or Cesar at second base in cash. Which guy do you feel like is a little safer?
I'm gonna go with Cesar.
Yeah, I would think Cesar as well. I mean, Peraza much cheaper depending upon what site you're talking about. So in that respect, not a terrible cash play and hitting leadoff at that price. But yeah, Hernandez to me looks a little better, and his bump up the lineup as well does help him out. Real question is, what dog food does Spags buy? Spags buys Blue Buffalo right now, but I tried different ones because my yellow lab has always got stomach problems. How is Seattle's bullpen? Let's see. Seattle's bullpen, not great, not bad. Good at swinging strikes, giving up 1.41 whip, xFIP of 4.65, which would be towards the bottom end of today's slate, but not terribly egregious in any way, which I'd be worried about him. So
yeah, plus they only had three guys go yesterday for a grand total of 18 pitches. Rowan Elias is he would have been the guy I would have thought to be the long man, but he went the last 2 days. So my guess is it's going to be Sean Armstrong and then RJ Alanis are gonna have to eat up some of these innings here, unless they've done any sort of call up or transaction that I'm not aware of. Because Brandon Brennan pitched 20 on Thursday and 16 on Wednesday, so hard to see him going more than 12 today. And then we'll have to see.
Yep, I think that's fair. Who's the best second baseman in the last 2 games? I guess somebody trying to get a second baseman lineup in for the night slate. You're a night slate man. You do play all the slates, Emac. Who would you want to go with at second base?
All right, hang on. I just had to upload that file. Now we're good here on DK. Now I got to go make my tiers lineups, but that's not going to be an issue. But let me call up this screen here and let's look at.
For me, I would think it's Peraza. Just even though I am strongly Team Lauer, I really don't see another second baseman I would be dying to have today. You could talk me into D Gordon. Trevor Cahill, lefty splits would benefit D Gordon a little bit, but I think it's got to be Peraza.
I would agree that it's Peraza.
Yeah, I really can't. I'm trying to find a way to talk myself into any of these other guys, and really, Kinsler with the righty matchup versus Castillo is not good. Yeah, nobody on the Angels worth even mentioning.
No, and
it's either T Gordon or Peraza.
Yeah, D Gordon batting at the bottom of the order, but he will steal. But I'd still go Peraza.
Sean V now talking about Blue Buffalo. Blue Buffalo may have had a recall or something, but it was recommended by my vet. So I would, Sean V, you got to stop. Not everything has to be contrarian take, my friend. Not everything has to be contrarian. Anyway, I just switched to Blue Buffalo recently as well. It's a fine food. Got questions here. People have Blue Buffalo problems. Look, I don't know. It was recommended by the vet, and it's apparently good for dogs who have digestive issues. Is what I was told.
Oh, Max Scherzer's given up 2 runs already, and it was in the first. Look at that.
Welcome to the world of baseball.
Weird stuff can happen. And you think, you sit there and think, oh man, Scherzer's been not great this year. He still has a 3.7 ERA. He's got 4 strikeouts already. So
speaking of it's baseball, by the way, that is a good lead in for a question from Eric Johnson. Thoughts on the Texas stack? Obviously, you're going to have a lot of Cole ownership, and Cole does look like one of the better pitching options, but it is in Texas. It's not necessarily perfect Texas weather. Any sort of Texas stacks for you going against Cole?
Nope.
Yeah, I have a couple one-off guys because I do think Cole can give up a home run or two, though. He's really only league average against righty hitters versus lefty hitters. He's only given up 1.6 home runs as a home run rate. So,
6 of my 75 lineups are Texas 5-man stacks, and 6 are also 3-man stacks. So, putting in that perspective, that's 9%. of my players will be from Texas. That's not a lot.
So I'm sorry to keep going back to the dog food thing. These guys keep talking. Taste of the Wild is one we're coming off of, so I've tried that as well. Just different things work for different animals, guys. I appreciate the feedback.
If Sean V's there? I haven't called it up yet. How's the Baltimore bullpen doing today?
Is that an actual question, or are we trolling him again?
No, he said they've been good, and I said they were not good, and it's hard to tell. Yacobonis got his ass kicked, but they have the second worst ERA on the season, and they're worn out. That's the problem.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how their bullpen's doing. I don't have that data in front of me, but in general, I would support a contrarian Sean V approach. Or at least, if you like data beyond the last 2 days, I think in general, you might want to look a little bit deeper at Sean V's numbers. Very recency biased. EMAC, we got a lot of popular stacks today. We got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams above 5 implied runs, a couple just underneath it. Out of those teams, which one do you feel like is the most likely to fail?
Sorry, I'm not on the right screen to look at that quickly. Who are the top 5, top 3?
So out of the teams, let's say I'll go down to 4.9. So the Dodgers, okay. Houston, Philly, Colorado, and let's not include the Angels because we don't like the Angels. So everybody besides the Angels.
Colorado and the Dodgers would be the most likely to not get there.
So that's fair. Going off Vegas totals, which is what we are trying to do here. They are the lowest implied totals of that grouping. But I would agree. I think I would slightly lean towards Colorado failing more than the Dodgers just because, I don't know. I guess it's close. It's close enough where it's probably negligible. But I have more Dodgers, so I'm trying to talk myself into that approach. But I think you're probably right. It is those two. Let's see. Checking the questions. What's Nola's ownership at, though? On DK, over 30%, just barely. Reds or Angels stack? Which of the two cheap stacks did you go with for that?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I think it's close. So here's why. Mike Trout. But if Mike Trout hits a solo home run, that's only one. So he needs people on base. And if you were going to do it, it'd be Trout, Pujols, and then, I don't know, flip a coin on one of the other 3 guys. If you're looking at, I already said I like the top 4. For Cincinnati, you're going against Lauer. You get a little bit more leverage against the field. And starting off with Eugenio Suarez, Kemp, and Puig, and then you can either go up 1 to the number 1 hitter or down to, I forget if I liked the number 5 or number 6 hitter, but that would be where I would go. I would lean a little bit more towards Cincinnati.
I think if we're just going off the run totals, I think you would have to say the Angels just because, it's a difference of 1.3 implied runs between the two, but in terms of, honestly, in terms of ownership, I don't even think you're getting much going to the Reds either. I would favor the Angels. Sorry, I don't like the Angels.
It would be going against Lauer would be the leverage part of it for me.
Oh, right. So you're saying you would take the leverage even though the implied runs aren't
correct. Okay. Sorry, I should have completed that thought. Because that makes a little more sense than me saying, take the lowest of everything.
Look, if that's your take, I wouldn't have begrudged it. I just feel like it's not enough of it. It's a leverage play on the field, but it's not enough of an ownership leverage play for the stack itself, perhaps. So I think I would go the Angels still. And I certainly, I think I'm pretty equal amounts on both, but I don't know. I like the cheap guys on the Angels a little bit more than I like the cheap guys here. But I like a guy like Suarez. I think Suarez is a guy who I would take him as a one-off that more than I would any Angel outside of Trout. I would say that. I always play Peraza leading off against the lefty. Done it the last 3 seasons. Sure, it's fair. It's a fair take, Sean. Here, Jeremy Lieberson. So Nola over Castillo in cash. I would say that's a no.
No, definitely take Castillo.
Yeah, doesn't matter. He said it would afford him. Hold on, it would get him Hoskins and Bregman. That's tough. I don't think you go Nola over Castillo in cash though. That just seems irresponsible.
I would agree.
Yeah, based on ownership, I don't think. Yeah, I would say the logic isn't there. You got to go Castillo. He'll give you some strikeouts at least. Nola has at least a possibility of going negative. Every pitcher has a possibility of going negative. But
I started Max Kepler. These darn doubleheaders and the all-day slate had me.
Yeah, that wasn't even worth waiting through with an early NBA slate, and that I was like not doing any MLB before this main slate. What are we getting here on Premium Slack? Got a notification and then nothing? Now I'm confused. All right. So, oh, there we go. McCutchen, Jock Peterson, or George Springer for a FanDuel GPP. EMAC, what do you think?
Springer. Leading off, he's just fine against righties. And if you can pick on Sampson, take as many shots as you can. I'm assuming he's leading off today. It's rare that he's not leading off.
Yeah, I would also go Springer there. I think it's just he's a part of a team I think it's hard to imagine them not putting up a good amount of runs. So yeah. In terms of stacks,
you can tell when the 12-hour allergy medicine wears off. It's like all of a sudden I'm coughing, my eyes are watering. It's like, oh, yep, it was 7 o'clock when I took it.
Don't worry, Mac. I have the same cough, but no allergies. It's more for reasons related to our national global holiday that we have today that should destroy my lungs with enjoying a little too much.
If you're gonna go down in a blaze.
What would you do for cash stacks? We don't talk enough about cash, but obviously I think some people may be having a hard time thinking about cash, and baseball in particular. It is a bit of a different game than other sports. What would be your cash game stack for? You're playing both sides today, right?
No, just DraftKings, but I'm playing every slate. I'm playing every showdown slate for baseball, basketball, and hockey, and I've got golf going on. So focusing on one site tonight, and I'm up now in my slow draft over on Draft for the NFL season-long best ball. So I got notifications coming from everywhere, Chris.
What does that even entail? What are you doing now for
just
that?
Doing drafts that they'll be done. I mean, why not do them before you know what's happening in the NBA or the NFL draft? So
I guess I haven't played on that site enough to understand how it works. And best ball I also have not done before. So even though I do understand the logic with it.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, well, we can talk about it, but let's not talk about it. Did they say which site for cash they were looking at?
No, just I think in general, let's just talk about which stack would you feel like it's the safest one to go to for cash?
It's a little expensive, but I mean the top 4 going against Sampson. Now you're probably going to have to forego Garrett Cole on that one. So if I was building my team around that, I would then pair Castillo with either Lauer or Cahill. I'm not a huge Cahill fan, and I like Castillo better than the other two. But if you wanted to go Cahill and Lauer, and that got you Springer, Altuve, Bregman, and Brantley, I think that would be a way to do it. I don't dislike, and these are DK pricing, I don't hate the Dodgers. I mean, you're paying a lot for Peterson, so if he was the guy that would fall out, I'd be okay with that because he's always a pinch hit risk towards the end of the game. But he is batting leadoff, so that should kind of be the trade-off of him batting 5th versus him batting 1st will be about the same over the course of the season based on him getting pulled. But Turner, Seager, and AJ Pollock are phenomenal there. But if you're trying to go to Peterson or Bellinger, you're going to pay a lot. You're going to run into the same hitter. The same pitching type issue that you have. If you wanted to do the Angels, I would go top 4 there as well. Or I would for sure go Trout, Simmons, and Pujols. And then if you need your catcher, batting 5th, Jonathan Lucroy. Who knows if he's going to get any points. But then also, or you can go batting 1st and take out your third base slot, which is kind of a hard position to give up. Or you'd give up your second outfield slot. You could go with Fletcher if you wanted a 4-man. In that, but those would be the 3 I would look to. And you'll notice I didn't mention the Phillies or the Rockies. I just feel the Phillies are a little more expensive than I would want to do, and I'd still be okay with taking some of that contrarian action on the other 3. But if you were going to do the Phillies, I mean, it gets hard because Harper and Hoskins are both over 5K and Real Muto's 5K. So it's like, I don't know who you're pitching at that point on a 2-pitcher side. So I think those other 3 give you some room to work with.
Yeah, and I agree with the Astros take too as being the building block I would want to go with for sure, because those guys are going to get on base and they're going to get some hits as well. So some combination of them, you'll probably see some runs. I think you'll see some runs scored by the Astros.
Yeah, you knock out second base, and you have like the best third baseman today since Arenado's not on the slate. So all of a sudden you got the best second baseman and the best third baseman. You also want to consider that sort of stuff. Plus then Springer. And then if you want to go to Brantley, that's fine too. I mean, they're not cheap either, but I would lean towards those guys first because Samson can give it up in a variety of ways. He can walk, he can get hit hard. He's just a mess. So that's how I'd end up there.
Yep. This guy's saying Kevin Smith going over Jonathan Lucroy. Yeah, I mean, I think based on the matchup of versus a left-handed pitcher, but we talked about Kikuchi not getting his full run today, seeing an abbreviated run of a couple innings. So that means you're not getting as much of a boost for Kevin Smith, but I think he's a perfectly fine play, and I do like him in general.
If you're not a fan of Lucroy, Smith is a tiny bit cheaper, and he's one spot down in the order. I would have no problem with that at all. You don't have to have your stacks be adjacent. You just don't want to go 2, 5, and 7. That would not really be a stack.
Right.
That would be three of the best hitters from a team.
You're asking for there.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll see Hoskins and Harper due for home runs. Yeah, look, I still support this Philly stack completely. I just think the prices are a little tougher, and it's possible you could see one guy derive most of the value. Let's see. Any other good questions here? Padres damage at home question. I don't know what that means. I don't think they're going to put up a lot of runs here versus Castillo, if that's the question. I really don't even see that as an outcome. I think like it's possible Castillo gives up some runs, but I really find it hard to believe they just shellac him. Is there a world, EMAC, where, I mean, I guess it's baseball, so it's still possible, but is it a world where you see Castillo just getting shelled here, EMAC?
No, I mean, I would say 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20, just because there are so many righties, and he's great against righties. Now, what if he tweaks his neck or his hamstring or something and is trying to pitch through it? Okay, well, that would be what it would need to have something like that be the precursor to him having a bad outing. And I would say a bad outing would be, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, or worse. So that, I mean, it's in play, but if there were 2 better lefties in the lineup, in addition to Hosmer, yes, but not with the lineup they're putting out.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Mejia not even that good versus righty pitching, and Hosmer has been good historically, but this year is just hitting terribly to start the year, not making contact with anybody, and not also showing any power. So Hosmer off to a bad start, and it's hard to believe Castillo is going to get blown up, but I don't mind one-offs going against them here and there. And Tatis, too, I think it's generally overlooked on every slate, but he's been really good to start his career, and that's why he's hitting leadoff. What else do we got here? San Diego's pen is good, I believe. Yes, they are. They are, in fact, very good. Actually, the best xFIP on the slate and the best strikeout per 9 for San Diego's bullpen.
You know what's the best thing about Fernando Tatis Jr.?
What?
His dad is Fernando Tatis Sr., who had 2 grand slams in 1 inning.
Did he? I did not know that.
And that's an impressive stat. Oh, well, that was like, good God, late 90s. I was still... Daily fantasy sports was still a decade plus away. I was playing season long on CBS with my friends, and I had an AL only league.
Is he the only person to ever do that, to have 2 grand slams in an inning?
I believe so. I think somebody had 2 grand slams in a game, 1 from each side of the plate, I think, or maybe it was 2 home runs. I know people have done 2 home runs from each, or a home run from each side of the plate in the same inning, but I don't know if there's ever been 2 grand slams in an inning.
So there are apparently 13 people who have done it throughout history. Oh, really? But it's like a lot. The most recent one is Josh Willingham. If you remember him.
God.
Nomar Garcia Parra's done it.
In the same inning?
Yeah, apparally.
Oh,
no, it's actually, no, this is 2 in a game. Never mind. My bad.
Oh, okay.
My bad. Okay. I was gonna say that does seem high.
I mean, 2 in a game that's like a career day. So let's not set that down. But I thought 2 in an inning, I think it would only happen once. I think home runs from each side of the plate in an inning has happened like 3 times, 4 times.
Huh.
Or at least.
Yeah, there's guys who've had 2 home runs in an inning, like you mentioned. Willie McCovey's done that, but nobody. There are 2 grand slams in a game, but not in an inning. So there we go. Huh. All right.
Hey, shout out to Jake for the NHL content, as we're going to, by the time they hear me saying this, we're going to be at lock. But I've just been on a tear on these NHL Showdown plates. I took one down again today, so I turned my $5 into 60. That's pretty good, I think, right?
Yeah, I would say so. The NHL content, underappreciated in terms of the sports out there, but Jake does as good of a job as anybody we have on the team and bringing that content and making it accessible so you don't even have to watch really to do pretty well with this stuff.
Yeah, the projections have been so helpful for me this year.
All right. And we are locked, EMAC. Let's see. Anything else to hit here question-wise? Got everything in the premium Slack. Got all the important stuff in YouTube. Any hot takes you want to give out last minute, EMAC? Anything that's been burning you alive?
No, but I just rebooted my phone, and I'm getting text messages from 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
From my
You were
cousin.
missing out on all the fun party invites you were getting.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. My cousin in California is thanking me for something I told him 2 weeks ago, and his timestamp is like right after I mentioned it to him, and I never got it, but now I have it. So I was kind of like, Dick never said anything back to me.
Is it like iMessage? I feel like iMessage always does that, or
yes.
not always.
Yeah, it's iPhones. So.
Yeah, sometimes it'll go to it'll go to some like old iPad you have, and it thinks it delivered it, even though it didn't get to the actual place that you're looking at.
Yeah, I get, outside of my wife, I get like 3 texts a week. So for me to get 9 notifications, I need to go see who perhaps I have not answered. Is the other question.
That's good point. You didn't just miss party invites; you missed important offers of millions of dollars from or people who, I guess, beautiful women. You have a wife, so you don't need that.
All right. So here's the count. So I did 3 $5 contests. They're the quarter entry, but I had $15 in entries, and I ended up netting $62.
Okay, hey, that's nothing wrong with that. It's good ROI.
I share those little Slack screenshots with Jake in chat, just to Jake, because I know nobody else wants to see them. But he's like, damn, he goes, you found your niche. That's for sure.
Well, good job, Matt. Good job by you. Good job by Jake. L. Johnson asking, what is Jake's DK handle? I think it's Tommy Nation 1, because his college team was the Tommies, TOMMIE.
Is that where it came from? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's got some weird name. It sounds like he's representing some sort of Native American tribe, but no, he is in fact.
Yeah, it's like TOMMIE or something, I think.
Yeah. Jake, a proud Tommy Nation member. He is the chief of their tribe, but no, I'm pretty sure it's his college was the Tommies, and there's a nation of support for the Tommies out there. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button on the way out. That helps us out a lot. It's a Saturday. It's time to go enjoy our days, but all the likes mean and support, honestly, you guys being here, it all means a ton. So we appreciate it, but hit the like button on the way out because we appreciate that equally much. EMAC, any parting words for the folks?
Yes, it is Tommy with an IE Nation and then the number 1. And that's what Jake is on all the sites.
It creeps me out that I knew that. Like, what information is in my head that or got bumped out by that?
I think it's a weird one because you've got me, I'm EMAC on the sites, and you've got Josh, who's Josh Engelman. You've got Dan Strafford, who's Dan Strafford. You're Chris Spags. So a lot of these kind of make sense. Awesome-o. Hey, wait for it. We all know that one.
Yeah, Tommy Nation 1, not one that popped, but somehow it was stored in my memory banks. That's how special Jake is to me. So, Jake, if you hear this somewhere, that's how you know. But yeah, EMAC, give us a sign off. You do it.
All right. So, gamers, we do have a show, speaking of which, with the one and only Tommy Nation, Jake Harriet, tomorrow. I'll have to check. It is Easter Sunday. We may go a little bit early. I have to make sure I'm doing it with him. We might go at 11. We'll do the early games. It's a heavier early slate, but we should have most, if not all, of the lineups by then for the games that are starting at 1 and 2 o'clock. Worst case, we'll go at 11:30. But otherwise, you should be all set. I believe there may be a Fast Eddie Fear show for NBA tomorrow. Again, it's a little tricky here with Easter and some of our guys having families that get together and do stuff. And then there's me who, sits around and watches baseball. There we are. But with that, you can follow Chris Spags on Twitter at Chris Spags. I am at EMAC DFS, and it is, of course, Awesome_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.